Okay, I'm going to throw in some balls and then I'm going to make it run in reverse in the mixing mode while I add some more. Okay, I'm just curious to know when I turn this on what's going to happen here. Oh, interesting. It worked. Let me reposition the camera. Let's see what happens if we reverse it. Okay. Okay. Back to mixing mode. Now I'll go the other way. Oh, stop it. Well, I left it run for a bit, and I'm really excited to extrude some of this back out, but this is not getting pushed down, and I do need to, there will be an insert. Here's a 3D printed prototype I was using, so I'm just going to use this for now and shove that down in. We're going to continue to mix a little bit longer, and then I'm going to start extruding it. We can just throw it back in, but I want to see how it comes out. Okay, let's see how this extrudes. Ooh, here we go. Wow, interesting. I can hear a little scraping in there. It looks like I'm going to have to take this off one more time. Going to have to grind that final auger just a tiny bit more, but I mean, it's cool it came out. I don't know what else to expect, but I don't know. A little bit of air. So, pretty cool for a first try. I think that went pretty good. We have a problem. It popped its fuse. It's got a 10 amp fuse with a 10 amp rated cord to the wall. But what it means is either one, this gear reduction at 40:1 is not low enough, and or these might be being too aggressive. That spiral, when it wants to start shoving all that clay out of that small hole, it just does not have the oomph to do it. So first things first, I've already ordered a new gearbox. It comes exactly in the same form factor with a 60:1 gear, so I should be able to just unbolt it, slip it out. On Monday when it arrives, put the new one in. Well, FedEx just delivered the new 60:1 gearbox. So if you're following along, that is the new gearbox. And it should be a direct fit. Okay, the new gearbox is installed. Let's put it in. I'm going to put it in the mix mode first. It's nice and cool. I mean, it's mildly warm, but it's over 100 in here. Okay, let's push some out here and see if it handles it. Well, it's working. Let's take this bit here. Well, now that I have the 60-to-1 gearbox in, I've been running this, and more importantly, now that I know it's an issue, you'll notice on that outlet over there, I have a little meter. When I'm running it, I'm pulling, depending how full it is, I've seen 7, 8 amps being pulled, running it back and forth. But if you run it for a long time in either direction, I think it kind of loads up, you'll hear it, you'll feel the motor getting a little warm, and you'll see the amps start to climb. But especially when you're extruding, that is where it's most noticeable. When you're going to actually pug, amperage stays rather constant. You hear the kind of smacking of the air coming out. You'll see this to start to move, the log starts to come out, and the amperage spikes. So for sure, I need to change the pitch of that auger blade so that this motor has more, I want smaller bites. I'm giving it real big bites to shove into that cone, and I need to change that angle. I'm not going to bother cutting this off, but to make it less aggressive, I'm going to pinch these together. My goal probably to move this one more than to move this one, and there will be a limit, and that width right there would be the tightest I could make it. But that should significantly slow down the rate of push, giving the motor a better chance. And as well, on some of these, I wouldn't mind coming and kind of cutting them away so they have more of a kind of a T shape. Again, just cutting down the surface area, lightening the load on the motor so that it can run cool and still do what it needs to. I certainly don't have any sort of saw tool that could get in there. Yeah, it's fairly thick, right? So I'm just going to use a plasma torch. Warts and all, that was my first cut, and you could see it definitely has a bit of a wobble there. That one improved considerably. This was not so bad. I think I can do this, and it just may be unsightly, but as long as the jaggedness gets ground down a little bit, you're never going to see it. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 of them more in this kind of T pattern, leaving a solid one right before the auger. And I'm not sure if I showed you, but pinching that in the vise worked great. I took at least an inch, inch and a quarter out of that opening. These cutouts are still quite rough, but I took off the, the sharp bits, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time making it perfect until I know that it's actually going to work. So here's what I want to do next. Rather than cut this blade down, at this point I'm going to just bend the blade so it's more up and down. I mean, at some point, if it's straight up and down, it'll just cut a groove, and it's almost like it's not there. So, but I did notice that this bar, clearly when the clay was being shoved in the mixing direction, this bar was actually able to flex back and put a scrape on the back wall. I heard a tiny grinding noise, and that was it. So I've gone ahead and bumped this out just a tiny bit. So if it does that again, that shouldn't be a problem. But here's what I want to do. I want to add a mixing bar. I happen to have this stock. I bent it and want to weld it in place, something like that. We're going to tweak these. I'm probably going to tweak these all just a tiny bit, turn down their angle just a little bit, make it easier on the motor. And then I want to put it all back in and run it again, see how it runs. So you can see how much of a tweak I gave that blade, and all of them have been, this one still looks a little aggressive to me, but turned down quite a bit. And then obviously this gap has also been closed. So I think we've done a lot to lighten the load. I did have to take this in and out a couple times. I needed to grind that bar down a little bit, so it was a little too close to the wall. Everything is clear. So let's throw some clay in and see if that improves the situation. I've been running great all morning. So I'm pugging up a bunch of clay. I want to stress test it. I want to make sure that I can really push this thing. I filled it about halfway with these dry, broken clay bits and poured a bunch of water in there, and I mixed it for about, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe, 20 minutes, to let it sit just a little bit, and then I fed in some kind of leather hard clay that's just a little too firm to throw, just to kind of help fill the chamber. And now I've been pugging it and throwing it back in, and I wanted to show you how that's working. I think that is pretty freaking good for not very long and from completely dry. It does have kind of an interesting texture when you break it. I'm very excited to see what it's going to look like. What it's going to look like when we have vacuum on the chamber. But yeah, I'll just keep throwing this in and running it through. See how it's just spinning and not moving? That's okay. I find when I pour in the water, it can get kind of slipping, but I still have room in there, so I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna let this just sit for maybe half an hour or so and kind of soak together. Then I'll come back in. I'll probably throw some more stiff clay that's not fully dried up in there to get it pugging, and then we'll pug it through a couple times, and it comes out in these nice smooth logs. Well, I've gone ahead and mounted this up. Wanted to cut down a little tang that's going to fit in our hole. Should fit on there pretty good. Nice and snug. Yeah. Yeah. Look how nice and smooth. Can you believe from dry clay to this? So there it is, all done. Like that wooden handle, really comfortable. All the lettering is on. I'm pugging clay. Probably the first day, I took breaks. I did it in little batches, but I reconstituted maybe 200 pounds of clay and, I don't know, 100 pounds the next day, and it works great. I'm excited to keep it full and always have fresh pugged clay. So there you go. YouTube trained, no real plan, but that's how I made it. Hope you enjoyed.